Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And joining us for this review episode is Bullshit Paul in the studio again.
I'm still here.
Yes, you are.
And yeah, when I say in the studio again, I mean still in the studio. He left the studio. No, you didn't even leave.
No, I have not left.
I would say that it's only been about 5 minutes, but it's really been closer to half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is this the part where we shit on Adrian?
Yes.
This is.
Oh, great.
You know, we wanted to give Paul the full Mile High Game Guys experience, so we recorded the first 20 minutes of this episode without his track set to record.
We did. We.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Apparently, it was
the
it was
royal
team
we.
effort.
the royal we.
It was
Yeah.
a team effort.
Adrian fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
correct.
case that wasn't clear.
Correct.
At least it didn't freeze.
Yes.
Hey, nobody's paying me to do this, so.
So
I am paying you
so
to
it
do
was
this,
actively
actually.
his
Technically.
fault. It was actively his
I
fault.
am actually paying you.
But I
to do
don't. I don't
this.
get that money. That money goes into a podcast fund that does other things. As Zach gestures vaguely at the studio.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, these foam things.
Yeah. That are oddly placed.
Which
This-
ones did I pay for?
You paid for that one.
The single one?
That one right there. Yeah.
Fuck me.
That's
That
the
one's the
new-
worst one.
That's the new Patreon level. We'll engrave your name into the foam.
I'm expecting to see that next time I'm here.
And the bare bulb that sits above us.
Oh, God. Don't mention it. I can't look away.
Oh God. Anyway, let's get into this review since we've already had previously started it, and now we'll just get back into it again. So we are reviewing Root. It is a 2018 release from designer Cole Worley. Artist is Kyle Farron and published by Leader Games. It plays 2 to 4 players and takes 60 to 90 minutes. Zach, I know you have a rules rundown for us.
Yes. En route, you are fighting for control of a vast wilderness. The Marquis de Cat is the current ruler wanting to ravage the lands for resources. The Eerie dynasties are the ousted former rulers hell-bent on taking back their realm. The Woodland Alliance are the downtrodden hoping to rise and overthrow both. And the Vagabond is a wanderer helping all sides to get famous. On your turn, you can move your warriors, craft items and cards, battle enemies, and many, many, many other faction-specific actions. When you battle, the attacking faction will roll 2 dice and choose the higher die. Ranging from 0 to 3, this number indicates how much damage you can inflict, capped by the amount of warriors present. The first person to get 30 points wins.
Yeah, that is a quick little overview there of Root. Let's jump right over into initial thoughts. Paul, we'll start with you again. Since you were the first person to get to play Root, and you are also the only person to own Root in our, in the studio. Ant also owns it, but he's not here.
That's why I'm here.
Yes.
That's definitely part of it.
And we couldn't get Ant, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's busy.
I'm your second choice.
Yeah.
Wow.
The most second choice.
Yes.
The most second.
Yes.
Excellent.
Most second for the most podcast.
Paul, you've always been second choice. This is just the first time where it's like, well, now we have to do our second choice.
I deserve that.
Anyway, Paul, what were your initial thoughts going into your play of Root?
So, my initial thoughts in this game. I viewed the Kickstarter. I was not enthused by it. I did not back it. A large part of that was because I had my incorrect assumption that it was the same designer as Vast, which I do love, by
Right.
the way. Vast is a great game.
But I don't think you'd want just another version of that.
Correct. I knew it was different. I knew it was, area control war game. But Vast, I love playing Vast. I do not want to own Vast because it's a nightmare to teach other players. Your first playthrough with new players or players that are playing a new faction for the first time.
Yeah. It's too asymmetric.
Can be really long. I agree with that. That's a good way of putting it. So it's too asymmetric. There's no underlying mechanisms that tie all the races together or all the characters together in
Yeah.
Vast. But I feel like I'm shitting all over it, but I do really like it. Anyway, that's why I didn't back it. I went to Gen Con, that's what that's called, and we went to the gaming library, and there was a nice gentleman sitting there with a fully set up copy of Vast. And
Also, his copy of Gloomhaven and
Yes.
Seventh Continent.
oh, that's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's sitting there with
Wait, he had all 3 set up?
No,
No,
he
no,
just
no,
had them all
no.
sitting next to him.
Oh.
yeah in his little trolley thing.
Yeah.
Like a wheel,
Oh.
not a wheelbarrow, whatever it's called, a wagon.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. He was an awesome guy though, and Ant, ever the socialite amongst us, was like, "Hey, you need some players?" And so three of us sat and played Vast Root, and I instantly fell in love with it. It was he had no idea what he was doing. It was his first game too, and the game was taught in probably 30 minutes. We got some things wrong, which we've discovered, but that's to be expected in an asymmetrical game where no one's played before. And I think everyone had a blast. And jumping ahead probably a few hours, depending on how many times we have to re-record this.
No more times. This is the final time.
It's every game I've played of this has been really tight. People are within victory points away from each other.
At least some of the people are.
With some exceptions.
Yes.
But mostly they are, unless you're the cultists. And it's been, I feel like everybody's had a great time. So it was an instant purchase for me. I bought the base game at Gen Con. I entrusted someone who's not trustworthy to get the expansion from me. That failed, so I had to order it online. But it came promptly, and I love it.
Jeff, what about you? What were your initial thoughts going into Root?
I remember us talking about it on Kickstarter many, many months ago. You had mentioned that they did that really funny hate spoof.
Yes, they spoofed that really shitty Simon hate video.
Yeah.
Yes.
For Root, which was just fantastic.
Fuck Simon. Oh, sorry. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
No cursing.
Yeah.
But Root's Kickstarter was cool. I never did it. Ant immediately backed it. And I was looking forward to trying it, especially the closer it got and the more I heard about it being, it's like, this is a strategy war game that's asymmetrical, not just sort of a thematic-esque asymmetrical game. Like, I don't know whatever you would call Vast's genre.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea what Vast is categorized as. Does anybody have Vast pulled up?
I was actually pretty
do.
close when I called it like a sort of thematic. It's actually listed under thematic. It's a thematic strategy game.
Okay.
Asymmetric
Yeah, I can see that.
thematic
Yeah.
strategy.
Okay.
Where Root is a war strategy game and Vast being a thematic strategy game.
Uh-huh.
I was definitely looking more towards Root because I lean more towards those area control style war games like Inish and things. And then after what Paul and Ant had played at Gen Con, I was looking forward to playing even more.
Right on. I was in a lot of the same boat. I had really wanted to back Root when it was on Kickstarter. I'd been hearing a lot of good things about it from people who had playtested it, demoed it, and other reviewers and media people who actually got to experience it, who I trust. I kept hearing that it was a really good kind of an intro to wargaming, that it had a really good theme. And a lot of this I saw in the Kickstarter. I loved the art style. I like Cole Worley as a designer. I don't like all of his games, but as a designer, I think he's one of the better ones. And so I was really interested in it. Unfortunately, this entire last year for me has been pretty tight on expendable income. And so I ultimately did not end up backing Root, especially since I knew Ant was going to back it. Then Paul came back from Gen Con just raving about Root. And I think my first game night after everybody came back from Gen Con and I came back from my Michigan trip, it got played twice at game night. Like there were two different copies being played almost side by side.
In the same room, yeah.
In the same
remember
room. And I went around and was talking to people as they were playing and getting their kind of thoughts and checking out the board state and like kind of what people were doing and how they were doing it. And it seemed really interesting. And so I started getting really excited to actually get a chance to play it. And it seemed like all of the people who had copies, like by the time that rolled around, you had your copy, Paul.
Yeah.
Because you got your
And
base
expansion.
set at Gen Con and then you had your expansion shipped to you later.
Correct, yeah. It shipped really fast.
Yeah. So, I knew people had it and the people that had it wanted to play it. This was easily one of the games that I feel like there was the most excitement in our general group to actually play in a long time, which made it really easy to pick. Like, well, shit, this is a hot game. We all want to play it. We have multiple copies in the group. Yeah, this is going to be a review. And so I was excited going into my first play and looking forward to actually getting it to the table and reviewing it.
Yeah, on that note, I'll say, it's impressive how much a game gets played in this group of people where you have to review a new game every week, right? So you have to be constantly playing new games.
Yeah.
I feel like, and that's just the culture in general in board gaming now, is that we just, it's like new hotness and then the new hotness. You play a game like 100 times, or not 100 times, you play a game 10 times, and then it's gone. You don't play again for
Ever.
ever. Yeah, exactly. So I don't see that ever happening in this game. Really, we'll see.
Yeah.
But man, I'm just gonna rave about how good this game is the whole time.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is my final
Way
thoughts.
to bury the lead.
I don't do that.
Yeah. Zach, what were your initial thoughts?
Pretty much the same as everybody else. That initially, not dismiss the campaign as much as just like, oh, that's interesting, but don't have the money that I'd want to put towards it, and Ant's getting it, so I'll just look at it then. And then
We play most of our games with him anyways.
yes, and then Paul was like, "Oh my god, this game!" And so I was like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
actually interested." And was still like that after playing the game too, and so I was interested in playing the first time when you guys got your copy, and we're like, "Well, we know we're going to review this, so let's
just do it.
let's do it."
Right on. That wraps up initial thoughts. Let's jump over into components. I think the components are really good. However, there's one major complaint that I believe needs to be addressed. Paul, when you received your copy and you opened it up for the first time and you got everything together to play a game, I assume, just because I know how your things go, the first time you opened the game was to play the game.
And to have other people
You know what?
unpunch it for you.
So after you played, and
You know
went
what,
to put it all
Adrian?
back together.
Some people respect tradition around here. Thank you, Zach, for respecting my tradition
Yes.
of having the first people that play my games punch it off for me.
Yeah. He's the one that spends the money that we have to spend the time.
So
Yeah, that's right.
So you opened it up, you played a whole game, then you went to put everything back.
Yeah.
And how did that go?
And I was like, man, they gave me all the bags I need to put this back, except not. The components are great. Or I'll just get that out. They put a lot of thought and time into it. We'll discuss obviously a couple,
specifics?
some nitpicks here and there because this is the Mile High Game Guys. That's what you come here for.
Picking those nicks.
Yeah, exactly. Nits.
Picking
Nits is what I meant to say.
What is
yeah.
a nick? You picking a nickname?
I don't know. I just misspoke.
I really wish I had a good nickname for you. I don't.
Right.
Fuck. Anyway.
Zachmo.
Oh yes. Yes.
Oh.
The first words Jeff has said.
That's now canon.
Anyway, but some things have to be said, like the only way we're going to get better, and I firmly believe this. I bash all game designers and publishers when they fuck up. No matter how much I love their game.
You spend a lot of money on splatters, but you never take a second to not complain about splatter.
Correct. I mean, I'll buy the splatters because it's fantastic gameplay, mechanics, etc. But I expect there to be misprints that are not going to be addressed.
Yeah.
And other issues. But here they decided to give you 3 bags. One that's really tiny and holds like 3 pieces. I don't know what the second one does. And then the main large bag that's unusable after you unbox it, that holds all the other components. And that's fine, that's normal, but usually they give you player bags. They decided to save 30 cents per copy and not include those bags, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's my major criticism about the components of this game, which really speak to how good they are.
Yeah. Other issues that I've noticed, just to get the issues out of the way before we gush about how good, because the components are good.
Yeah.
Like, we'll just get that out of the way. The components are good, and we'll gush about some of the specific places they're really good in a moment. But another thing that I noticed, when you're putting away the game with all of the expansions, if you keep the trough, it's just a trough, which is kind of a lazy insert.
It is.
Troughs are for shipping. I mean, that's really what they are.
Sure.
But I noticed this was a game where in the Kickstarter, the expansion was immediately there. It was included with the Kickstarter.
Yeah, it was clearly designed from...
So you know that those are going to go together.
Yeah.
Take a second and either shallow out your trough another 2 centimeters, maybe.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much.
2 player boards worth, or
Yeah.
just raise your box 2 players boards worth.
Yeah.
Just make them a little bit different dimension so it closes flush and
Yeah.
nice. Especially again when they're designed together, you don't have a good excuse for that.
I
It's
agree.
one thing, and to be fair, I would rather this situation where you can just toss the trough and then everything fits in the box and it's fine. I'd prefer that to something like Lords of Waterdeep that has a fantastic vacuum sealed insert that in no way, shape, or form accommodates the expansion.
Right.
And so then you're either doing 2 boxes or throwing away something that somebody put a lot of work into.
Right, I agree.
So there's a happy medium somewhere in there, and I think it's just when you're releasing an expansion right alongside, make sure the expansion fits nice in the box.
With the insert.
with the insert.
Yeah, it's just attention to details again, right? And for a company and a designer that clearly puts so much attention to detail in the playthroughs
Oh,
and the play
yeah.
testing.
When we
and
get to rules, I've got a whole bunch about
Oh.
how much attention to
Oh,
detail they did
God.
on the rules.
Yeah, and like they've done amazing work on this game. It's just little things like that unfortunately take away, So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
So now on to some of the good. Fantastic wooden components.
A lot of them too.
A ton of them. They're all unique meeple shaped with their own unique designs, which
Like faction specific.
Faction
not
specific.
each wooden meeple is its
Yeah.
own.
like
Yeah,
the cats.
yeah.
The cats are all like little cats. The lizard cult are little lizards.
One-eyed lizards.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the factions are loaves of bread.
Yep, loaves of bread. No, slices.
Slices
of
of bread. Sorry,
yeah.
Come on.
slices of bread.
Don't exaggerate.
Also known as mice.
Yes.
But they're all unique. They're unique colors and shapes. So there's not going to be colorblind issues with this. You're going to be able to, just by looking at the shape, tell what piece is what.
The cardboard chits are also equally nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're all well designed. It's clearly this piece is this and goes here and does
Every-
these things.
Every faction has a bold color.
Yes.
And for having, with the expansion, 6 different factions, they actually did a really good job of they are all distinct colors. Like,
Yep.
once you start hitting 6 or more things, so many times, like, you're going back to Founders review last week, where like 7 of the factions of the 9 seem like they're all the same shade
Yeah.
of orange brown. Like,
You wouldn't think it'd be as large of a problem as it seems to be.
right. And so this was a good one where they did a good job of having 6 very distinct, different colors.
Yeah.
That are easy to tell apart on the board. The board itself is fantastic. It's got great art design, very clear layout for where, there's clearly marked building spaces and the clearings. It looks like a forest with clearings and paths. All of that is very clearly shown on it.
I do have to say, it seems like there's a lot of wasted space in the game, but
I've heard
there's only so small you can make the board.
Yeah, the board.
For a
And
game
so
like this.
the box is pretty small. It's a 6-fold
Yes.
board, or I don't know what you call it,
Yeah.
6-piece board, whatever.
6-fold.
Is it 6-fold?
3
Is
and
it-
3.
Does it have 6 folds though? It's only 5 folds though, right?
But it's 6. It folds 6 like
It's
Squares.
It's 6 sections.
6 sections.
There are 5 folds, 6 sections.
I would call it a trifold. but
Yeah.
that's-
If you dominant species
more
it,
than
you can
One,
always.
2, 3.
All right, we can discuss this on our second podcast.
Yeah. On a future discussion episode,
Board-
boards and how they fold.
Boards folding. You're gonna get so many downloads on that one.
Adrian needs the practice due to dominant species issues.
That's
Yes.
been like 3 decades ago. And by 3 decades, I mean 3 years.
But I love the mentions.
Yeah.
I wasn't even there. Anyway, so
But you don't do much with the spaces in between
Sure.
at all.
That's fair.
The vagabond can be there, but that's like one meeple.
Yeah,
but it's not like the board is huge.
No.
The board's not huge,
Yeah.
and I think that the extra quote unquote unused space is really nice because if you shrunk that down and had everything closer, then you'd run into issues because this is an area control game.
Yeah.
You would run into issues where it's like, well, is that bird in this clearing or that clearing?
Yeah.
I just
They're
wish
far enough apart that like you can have a lot of pieces in a clearing without it being anywhere near another clearing.
Yeah. Zach, how many bread people did I have in your clearings?
And an amount?
It was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah.
you can get a little crowded in those spots with buildings and not being able to see what color that area is if there's meeples in the way of where you're going. I would have liked those actual areas that you control to be a little bigger.
Fair.
Now,
Yeah.
I could see having
I
the
could
board
see
the
that.
same size and just expanding the clearings a little
Yes.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That I
sure.
could see, but I think that the overall space is pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, we are really picking nits here.
Oh yeah,
Except for the bags, god damn it.
Yeah.
yeah. The bags thing is pretty.
Jesus Christ.
I remember like when we first played and we were putting it away, and you're like, don't worry, just throw it all in the box. Just
Yeah,
start
we
scooping.
literally threw everything
And I
in
was
the
like,
fucking trough.
what? And you're like, yeah, they sent you 3 bags, and so there's nothing. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Unlike Uwe, who's like, here's 4,000
Yeah.
bags.
Here's bags for this game and for the
Yeah.
next 5 games.
Yeah.
I've never had to buy bags because I buy Uwe games.
I recently bought 600 bags. I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Anyhow, other things that are really good. The card quality is really nice.
Mhm.
They shuffle fantastic. We've
Got-
played your copy, like 7 or 8 times now, Paul?
Yeah, I'll probably sleeve it just because I feel like I'm
Eventually.
going to get a lot of plays.
Yeah.
Not because I feel like it has to be sleeved, but
But with all the play it's gotten with unsleeved cards, I
they're fine.
didn't notice any wear or tear.
Well,
They're
it
holding
has a nice
real
white
well.
border too. So
yeah,
So the small nicks
Yes.
and things don't show.
yeah, no, there's
Yep.
no markings or anything. It's fine. Yeah.
great art on there.
Yep. The faction-specific player boards are really well designed
Mhm.
from a functional graphic design standpoint. They're
Yep.
double-sided. The backside tells you how to set up and what
the order, yeah.
that you set up. And then the last step of everything set up is flip this board over and start putting pieces, to set up your player board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the player boards, the main part that is in play, really walks you through the different steps of the phase, the bird song, the daylight, and the evening,
Yep.
and what you get to do as your faction in those steps.
Mm-hmm.
I know Wes had some issues in one of our plays where he, on one of the factions, in the bird song, it said on both of its actions, like, as many times as you want.
Yeah.
But then in the daylight, it just says at the top, do any of these actions as much as you want.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
he
Wes
missed that
Wes
little
is
bit.
not the best reader, I guess. So,
Shots
aha,
fired.
yeah, I'll fire some shots.
But it isn't like he had I think a reasonable point that
Yeah.
it said it on each action in one section and only at the top in another. But that also has to do with available space and how many actions are in each section based on the factions. Otherwise, I think they do a great job with all of those.
I agree. It's a little inconsistent, but you can either the game designer is a genius, or they really clearly took playtesting to heart and listened to their playtesters and made some changes. And
Yeah.
something that should be a given in this industry, and is unfortunately not.
Unfortunately, not. Anything else, Zach, Jeff, that you want to chime in for components?
There's the winter board on the other side
Uh-huh.
that's for like advanced play that has random color locations for each of the spots. But the layout, you guys have played it.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
we
have
did.
not. And you said that it can be a little tough from where like the river is placed.
Mhm.
There's some choke point issues in the map.
Because
But
of the
if-
go ahead.
I would just say that it definitely feels like it's a winter map where it's harder to get around.
Yeah.
From one side of the map to the other, and it'd be a lot. It's not. So it's not just the other side. Like it doesn't look exactly the same, but winter. It is like a different place. Instead of the river is like sort of meandering through, this one cuts straight through the middle. And so if you don't have the Riverfolk company there, it can get pretty hard to
Yeah.
move across if you, especially if the lizard cults are there.
Yeah, especially because given like 3 out of our 4, I don't remember what color it was, but I think it was like orange, or the color of the clearings were on one side
Yeah.
of the map.
Yeah, it was the mice.
Yeah, and so it made it really hard to get over there because we weren't playing with the Riverfolk.
Yeah.
I think I would recommend playing that side after your first couple playthroughs.
Yes.
If you have the Riverfolk people.
Yeah. I don't think it's. I don't
Um,
think it's one where you would switch. Like, be like, all right, now we're just gonna be
Yeah.
playing this. It's two different things.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll get there. We're jumping
Yes,
ahead
exactly.
again.
That's what we do.
This game is
All
so
the time.
This game
Yeah.
is so good. I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't,
no, it's
I know,
fine.
right?
I can't hold myself
Yeah.
back.
Well, I just wanted to say one thing that
Okay.
we mentioned on the last one that we
Our
missed.
last attempt.
Yeah, from someone who's played a lot of Vast, we originally thought the boards, because we said the player order for setting up the board, it goes from A to G if you have the expansion. We thought that was player order like in Vast,
yeah.
because that
Yeah.
had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. on there. This one, if we had read the rules, and once I read the rules, I was like, oh, okay, that's different.
I don't read rules.
I know you don't. I know.
Yeah.
You just
It's-
watch half of a video and then
It's
fall
flaw-
asleep.
It's a flaw.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
None
But-
of us read rules.
Yeah. So, yeah, and really that just comes down to a rule thing. But it's just as someone who came over from Vast, we were expecting something, and we interpreted an ascending order as that's the player order of the game when it's not,
Yeah.
and it's nothing about the board says that. So that was solely just an us thing.
Yeah. It's only in setup. So
Yes,
in setup,
exactly.
the cat's set up first, and then the birds, and so on and so forth.
Because
After that, it's just
yeah,
clockwise.
and the reason why is because where the cats go, the birds and the cultists depend on where wherever the cat sets up, they have to set up in relation to that.
Right.
So
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is one thing I thought the base game did a lot better, and they improved on Vast, is that in Vast it's really difficult to know what everyone else can do.
yeah,
And so here in the base game, they included 4 sets of cards that you hand out to everyone so they understand a little bit about every other race.
It's all high level stuff, but
Yeah,
yes.
high level stuff like what their goals are.
Uh-huh.
Here's how they score points.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. I think it even gives you like, here's how they can be stopped in like a
Yes.
little
Right, yeah.
mysterious way.
Mhm.
For the expansion, I would have loved to see them include 2 more sets because it increases the player count from 4 to 6. And I would have I would have loved them to include 6 copies
of the expansion.
of the expansion races. Unfortunately, they didn't do the first recommendation at all.
No.
And they just included 1 copy of those cards for the expansion races.
Yeah.
So again,
you end up kind of passing them around
Yeah,
when somebody's
yeah.
playing one of those. Oh wait, I need to see what the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
river folk do.
what
Give
do
me
they
that
want to do
card.
again? Yeah. So, it was one thing where the base game like greatly improved on a deficiency of the publisher's previous game.
Yeah.
But then they were like, the expansion, meh. But,
Yeah.
again, we're really picking
Yeah.
nits here. Is that what we're
Yeah,
saying?
that's the phrase we're using in this
Yes, it
episode.
is. I feel that the Riverfolk company did not do a good enough job selling themselves if everybody on the board doesn't know everything that they can do.
That is a fair point.
Yeah. So that's true for the river
Yes.
folk. Well, I guess the cult could be the same way. The cult needs to be out there being like, "Yo, gonna get down with this
Yo,
cult." So that's not how the cult
fucking-
actually works.
No.
Those birds, am I right?
No.
Fuck birds.
I'm pretty sure the Colts are like, hey, you want to get down on this? By the way, you can't say no.
You are now down on this.
Yes.
Because I'm doing it.
Yeah, put those gardens everywhere, man.
Yep.
The expansion added like some solo and co-op stuff,
Mhm.
but we didn't do any of that.
No.
No.
But
So
it's
it won't-
it basically controls the cats.
Yeah.
And then you're playing against the cats. So,
Womp, womp, womp.
yeah.
I would like to see what the cooperative scenarios
I
are.
would
would
agree with that.
actually really like to play co-op. Maybe a game night this week, Joe.
Yeah. I'd be down for maybe something like that.
Yeah.
No, it's
Um,
once we've done review, like we never play this game again.
Yeah,
it's
it's
just-
over.
I don't give a shit what
No,
we do.
no, you've been on the podcast
Yeah.
now. You have to follow that.
Oh, I have to
Yeah.
burn the game,
Yes,
or
yeah.
just put it on my shelf and never
No,
play it
no,
again.
it's a beautiful game. You put it on
It
your
is
shelf so it
beautiful.
looks
No,
nice.
You burn the game and then you put it inside the box, and then you put the box up.
ashes.
Yeah, the
inside
ashes,
the box
yeah.
on your shelf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, let's move on from components and talk about rules and rules explanation. I want to start this off with a little excerpt from an article that is really fantastic, and I actually might include it in the show notes for this episode. It's from Joshua Yearsley, and it's entitled "We're Making Rulebooks All Wrong." And it's a fantastic article, somewhat long, that he just goes
So,
step by step.
let me just start now. Maybe.
And just buckle in. I'm going to read the whole thing. No. So Josh is a rulebook editor for a bunch of different board game companies, kind of an independent editor. And he goes through point by point about a bunch of different ways that the industry as a whole is doing rulebooks wrong. And he does it in a really good way where he talks about like things that he himself as a rulebook editor, where he has done things wrong and like his old assumptions and then observations and then what his new assumption should be in moving forward. And a little ways down into the article, he talks about Root because he worked on Root. And he says, Root was the first game that I did a bunch of usability testing on, and I'm happy to say the feedback coming in about the rulebook and aid components is overwhelmingly positive. Some people have even said the rulebook is in the top few rulebooks they've ever read. But to get there, I went through about 5 major iterations of the Learn to Play rulebook alone, some of them near total redesigns, based on sit-downs I did with fresh readers unfamiliar with the game. The rest of the article is fantastic, but I wanted to highlight that because that's the amount of effort. We were talking about that a little bit. Some of those little nitpicks stand out all the more because you know you can see in the game where they put effort in. And it's like, man, you put so much effort to miss this tiny little thing. Hurts.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but
The
flip-
rules are fantastic.
They are. I mean, the reverse of that coin is they put so much effort,
Yeah.
and it really shows. And it's appreciated. We played some things wrong, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yes.
That's to be expected in an asymmetric game where no one's an expert.
No one's
Yeah.
played it. Yep.
Yeah. So,
And we're all
and
very,
also I don't read the rules.
well, because we're all very
discussed.
experienced gamers, and one of the things he talks about in this article that I won't read this section of it, but he talks about the curse of knowledge.
Yeah.
Like especially as a designer or a publisher, you're very familiar with the game. You've went through the entire design process. You know the game front and back.
Yeah.
So you have the curse of knowledge where something seems intuitive to you but isn't to someone else, and we have a slightly different version of that curse of knowledge where we intuit things that aren't actually there.
Yeah. Also, just a cough, cough, portal, cough, cough.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of their rule books have been that because they said they don't do blind
Yeah.
tests.
Well, and
on
then
it.
How do
they-
you
they
how
have
do
a
you
whole-
admit
and-
to not doing like how you?
I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
How is that a thing?
Yeah.
And then on top of it, they have the entire language
yes.
issue, the
Sure.
translation issue, and that compounds a ton. But
Mhm.
for Root, the work they put in shows.
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the rule books are fantastic.
And
I
it,
also sorry.
well-
I also like how they've addressed, and it gets to your point earlier, Zach. How they've addressed of like inconsistencies or questions in the rules. They're like, that's the law of Root. If it says you do it, you do it. If it doesn't say you do it, don't like make up shit, right? And don't
Yeah.
assume that it's done. If it doesn't say it's done, it's not done.
yeah.
And so I've really appreciated that from clarifications on
Mhm.
BGG and whatnot.
Right.
And I remember hearing a lot about the rule book, and I was like, oh man, it's great. And then when I saw it, first thing I thought in my mind, I was like, that looks like a Fantasy Flight rule book. 'Cause it's a learn to play and then a
Yeah.
rules reference.
Yeah.
Now I think they do as good, probably a little better than a lot of, like, even the best of the Fantasy Flight ones.
I agree.
But I think that is a great honest, like, when it first came out, I was like, why do you have two rule books things? And it's like, I think it actually works really well. One will teach you the game, and so it's flowing in a way that teaches you the game.
yeah.
And the other one is like, are you looking about this specific instance? Here is it laid out. I think
Yeah.
some rule books mash those together, and then it just clutters the entire thing. So-
I agree. It's really well done.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say that we didn't use because we are experienced gamers and
And stubborn?
I'll say yes.
stubborn gamers.
Full of ourselves, overconfident.
Yes.
Maybe.
Oh, 100% that.
Well, full of ourselves,
Yeah.
obviously. But I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, useless is the walkthroughs or whatever.
Like the first play walkthroughs?
yeah,
I
we didn't
think
use
for
those
the-
at all.
I think for the majority of experienced gamers, those are useless.
Yeah,
But I think that they are smart in including them because there are going to be people who aren't experienced gamers who are going to pick this game up. And just because the way I do actually try to, if I'd gotten it, I try to learn games before I play them. If I haven't learned them previously, I probably would have used those.
that requires unpunching the game though.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Which is one of
Yeah.
my favorite things to do with a new game.
I mean, he's
That's
not
why
wrong.
I don't.
You should be thanking
Yeah.
me.
I only have one game in Shrink still on my board game shelf, despite the fact that I have like a dozen that I haven't played.
Yeah.
Because even if I haven't played them, I pull them down and.
Well, no,
Both of my
and
brass
unch-
copies are unpunched. If
Here's-
you want
here's-
to come
here-
over and punch them out.
Here's the thing: is that his unwrapped or his unwrapped game is a bunch of cards. It's not nothing to put.
There's no punching.
There's no punching out.
Just
so
organizing cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
It's
takes like an
Legendary
hour and a half.
Predator.
So yeah.
Is Jeff still alive, by the way? I don't know if he's still there.
I'm just looking through root things.
Okay.
I think he's just
just
trying
root-
to make
just
sure.
root things.
Yeah.
I'm in
Just
the
root
I'm
things.
in the rule book, like reading along.
He's deep.
Yeah. I think it was interesting, speaking of the rules and stuff, in the Slack channel it came up, somebody was asking about, like, I heard somebody on BGG saying that it took 4 hours to play,
Uh-huh.
and then was asking about our play times, and Zach had mentioned that it takes about 15 or so minutes to teach, and everybody was like, what? But that's pretty damn accurate. Wes
Yeah.
learned to play the game just reading his player aid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
while we were bullshitting
Like,
around.
when we were bullshitting around, waiting
No.
for Zach and not teaching Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I will say.
Zach got there and he's like, so did you teach them the game? We're like, no.
No, it's like
Whoops.
okay.
And he's like, nah, I got it.
Yeah, most of it.
Yeah, then I explained everything to him, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
so do you understand? He's like, oh, yeah, I figured that out from my player sheet.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then this is the thing, you do this and this. And this. Oh, okay, so that's what my player sheet
It was
said.
giving
Yeah.
context
Okay, so
to it.
that's... And yeah, you can learn it from just reading your player card
Now,
and the rule
yeah,
book. The rule-
obviously it's different if you have 4 or 6 new people who have never played
Yes.
it and they're trying to sparse it together. Sparse it together.
If you're sitting down and none of you have played, I think that's where I think those cards that walk you through
Yes.
turns are actually... Because that's what every app on the planet
Mhm.
does.
Yeah.
Yes,
They just tell you, this is your turn. Pick this card and play it. And we're going to explain what that does and how things...
video
and
games have done that. Yeah,
for
it's-
years.
Yeah.
And I think that's what those do. And so, yeah, if nobody's played it, nobody knows how to play, use that.
Mhm.
Use
So-
that to get familiar with it.
So I log all my playthroughs.
Yeah,
As discussed on the last
Uh-huh.
episode, which you should go listen
that
to.
was forever ago, Paul.
It feels like
Two
it.
Yeah.
whole days.
2 whole days.
And they've ranged so far from an hour and a half, which was our last play
Yeah.
actually, to 2.5, which is your 3 first play
Uh-huh.
at Denver Beer Co., which is
Yeah,
at a game night. We're all going to the bar to
Exactly,
get
yeah.
drinks, and we're all
And
getting our
food
food
truck
from the
and-
food truck.
and
But-
I got called away for
for-
a
Yeah,
discussion.
Mr.
know,
Popular over
my
here.
girlfriend was coming over and talking to me about like, hey, I'm gonna go home because we just got a fucking dog the day before. How did we not talk about my dog on the Wednesday episode?
Meh, it's old news.
Anyway, so my average play time is an hour and 57 minutes.
Yeah.
Which
Which is longer than the 60 to 90 minutes that it says.
It is. That's true.
But I feel like it should be like if it said I think 90 minutes to 2 hours is a good
yeah,
I agree.
time of
but
it.
Yeah.
you've played it at anything? Have you played? Have you played it at anything under 4 players?
No.
So maybe a 2-player game could be a 60-minute game.
I
Yeah,
mean,
true.
maybe, but
Depending
a
on the
4-player
factions.
game is closer to 2 hours, and a 6-player game is definitely.
Actually, our 6-player game took 2 hours.
Yeah.
You didn't let me finish. Is also closer to 2 hours.
You were not going to say
That's
that.
100% what I was going to say. Either way, I would say maybe even 60 minutes to 2 hours, but I feel
Yeah.
we've only had one game that was an hour and a half.
True. It was our last game. We all
Yeah.
know what we're doing. Yeah. And I stomped you.
But anyway,
Zach in particular.
Yeah. Well,
rules are really good.
mhm.
We're still in
Can
rules.
you guys think of anything that was tricky for you in the rules? So the one thing we did mention a little bit in components, the misunderstanding the A, B, C, D on the
well,
order
it was
you set up,
assuming something,
which
yeah.
Yeah.
but that might
That was
be
our
something that's
fault.
confusing if somebody
Yes.
else is making the same
Yes.
assumption.
So
Sure.
it can be an issue, but it's not necessarily the game's fault.
Yeah.
We were just going in with previous knowledge of games and trying to transpose it onto this.
Honestly, any asymmetric game is difficult to.
Yes.
More difficult usually than this is to learn and like get the rules down perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't fault them at all for the things we got wrong. Some were our assumptions.
Yeah.
Some I think were legitimate things that we got wrong that
Yeah.
were in a one sentence in the rule book
Yes.
that
Like
we should have read.
yeah, exactly. Like the fact that the vagabond can use the Riverfolk Company except for mercenaries.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're like, it says warriors.
Yeah, you don't have any warriors.
You know, but in the
Yeah.
rules, it clearly says,
Yeah.
here's for warriors, here's how the vagabond does it. And we're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just rely on Zach to
Yeah.
correct
so
me
it's
when I
not
play
really a
games
fault
wrong.
with the rules.
No,
it's
it's
totally
like I
like,
said, it's
our fault.
It is.
And yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that was explained to me at any point during this game
It
that
didn't make
wasn't
sense.
intuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do have
I don't know. That whole Max Warriors hit thing seemed pretty.
Oh god, that was so
that was also
long.
just entirely me reading something wrong.
Oh my god, that was so
and,
painful.
and, and, it,
Yeah.
and it shows how much it was because of how intuitive it was to everyone else at the table.
Zach and I
besides
were
me.
in physical pain,
Yeah.
I think. It was like
And you were looking like you were ready to die on that fucking hit.
Oh, I
You're like,
Oh, you
I'm
were
ready
diving
to
on
go
the
to
sword
blows
hard.
on this.
Oh yeah. And we're just like, how are you not understanding this? Anyway.
And then I read it again. And I was like, I read that paragraph 3 times.
Yeah.
And it was the 4th time where it went,
well, I'm
shit,
wrong.
I'm wrong. How did
Yeah.
I read it wrong 3 times in a row? How did I do that?
And then your next thought was, fuck, I have to admit to Zach and Paul that I was wrong.
Yeah. Oh, you guys might be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
But yeah, I think there are a lot of little things that you can get wrong, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's just because there's a lot of little things,
There are little loose,
nuances because it is an asymmetrical game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of those things are what make the game so good.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, there's no way getting around having I don't know how many pages the rule book is,
Right.
but it's not massive, but
Yeah.
it's probably what 20 pages
Mhm.
maybe the law
Yeah.
rule
Yeah.
book.
Well,
The
and
law
then it's
rule.
also
Yeah.
and depending on which races you're playing, because like in control, like with control of a clearing or ruling of a clearing, it's how many pieces
Yeah.
you have, and there's no, if there's a tied amount, no one's a ruler unless the birds are there. In which case, if they tied, they're
Yeah.
the ruler.
Yeah.
Unless the lizard people have a garden there, in which case they always win no matter what. And so it's a lot of little things like that
Yeah.
where they have a baseline and then a couple different ways that different races
Yeah.
change it,
I think I would recommend
which is
to-
a good thing for asymmetric games.
I
It's
agree.
just-
I think I'd recommend that everybody does the learn to play or whatever together, and everybody knows that, and that'll teach you a lot of the core mechanisms that everyone does.
Yeah.
Which is one of my biggest criticisms of Vast that we've covered.
Yes.
And then everybody reads the law for their specific faction.
Section.
Yeah.
And
Which
it
is only
it wouldn't take very long.
no, it
at
really
all.
wouldn't. Which is only a page for
Mhm.
probably for each section, faction, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that would probably smooth out a lot of the things we got wrong.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. I also do appreciate that they've kept like an FAQ. It's either on BGG or their website.
I know it's
I
at
wouldn't
least
be
on
surprised if it's
BGG.
both.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's
Yeah,
both, though.
yeah. I don't remember. And
There is a BGG FAQ.
Yes.
yeah, thanks. And that helps. I really appreciate when people do
Oh,
that.
100%.
I think we should start reading that before we play.
I mean, honestly, that's what I did after one of our plays. I looked through that in the rule book. That's one of the reasons I was like, I don't want to play Secret Hitler. Because I was like, I want to look at this rule book to make sure we're doing everything right. Because
yeah, I remember you telling me all the little tiny things we were doing wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, remember this one
Adrian.
instance that came up one time? Yeah, we did that wrong.
throughout the
Whoops.
entire game, I was Paul, and he's like, what? And I'm like, you know how we did this? We did that wrong. God damn. All right.
Wrong.
5 minutes later.
wrong.
Paul.
And it wasn't that many
No.
instances, but
Yeah.
it was like, oh, this one specific scenario,
Exactly.
we fucked up.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah. So let's move over into gameplay. Well, let's wrap up rules and rules explanation here and get into the gameplay because it already bleeds.
Yep.
They all bleed.
Do we want
Almost
to?
like these are all key things that all make a good game.
Yes.
Is all these different parts.
Did you want to do it like faction based or like just sort of? I didn't know if because each of them plays so differently. I didn't know if we wanted to.
Let's do kind of a general gameplay,
Okay.
and then we'll talk specific
Okay.
factions to kind of close things out.
I'm down.
The thing I do want to point out, I think what makes this work over a game like Vast, we mentioned, I think it was in this version that actually made recording, not in the one that was lost all time. Vast is too asymmetrical.
Mhm.
There is very little in common from faction to faction. I think that Root does really well in one of the key parts from Zach's rule overview. The game ends when somebody hits 30 points. Everybody's getting points. So it's really, you know that's what people are going for. It's easy to see where people are on that path. So you can see who's in the lead, who's doing
Yeah.
well. It's just how everybody goes about getting points is different.
Yeah.
But even in that difference, there's a lot of similarities. You're still moving troops. You're still bringing troops onto the board. You're building buildings. You're doing a lot of things that are the same, just in different ways.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that's absolutely brilliant about Root and the actual gameplay of it.
Absolutely.
how-
Yes.
You do different things, the same things in different ways.
Uh-huh. Basically, every time I've described this game to someone in comparison to Vast, I will always say this one, like Root, is different. Like all the characters are different styles of beers, like IPAs versus stouts versus sours. There's a lot of difference there. You can sort of relate it. Whereas with Vast, it's like, all right, you're a stout, Jeff's Scotch, Adrian's a milkshake, and I'm water.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
completely agree.
Yeah, which one? Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so you can craft. Everyone can craft. Well, almost everyone can craft items to get victory points.
who can't craft?
I guess everyone can.
Yeah,
craft.
everybody can craft.
Yeah,
everybody,
you're right.
yeah.
Yeah. Because
Just
even
different
the
people are
vagabond can
better
craft.
at it.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. So everyone can craft to get victory points. Everyone can put tokens out from their board
Uh-huh.
to get victory points. Maybe almost everyone in that one.
Well, the Vagabond can't, but he gets like quests. So I sort of view it the same way in that regard.
Anyway,
Yes.
like there's these underlying mechanics of how you score points.
Uh-huh.
Everyone's gonna know their own race's like individual ways to do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
eventually you'll learn everyone's how to prevent people from
Mhm.
doing it. It's just superb.
Yeah. And even if you don't necessarily know what the Riverfolk company is doing,
Yeah.
if you see them at 25 points and everybody else is at like 15, everyone's like, fuck the Riverfolk.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm not gonna buy any of their
Yeah.
shit.
We're not going to buy anything. We're going to burn all their
Nope.
buildings to the
Oh
ground.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a trading post? Get fucked.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can get the gameplay can get a little take that-ish if somebody emerges as a clear.
But
Leader?
that is a
But-
war game and
It
an
is,
area
yeah.
control game.
Right. But that's
Yeah.
also rare in my plays that anybody is such a clear leader.
That's
Okay.
true.
In
the
that
only
regard,
time
yes.
I've seen that really happen was our first play where I, as the cats who start out all over the board, jumped out to like a 10 to 12 point lead,
Which is not that big in the
which
early
is
game.
not, and everybody was like, "Oh, fuck the cats,"
Yep.
and
To be fair, it was like half fuck the cats, half fuck Adrian. So
I mean, it was fuck the cats amplified by also fuck Adrian.
Yeah.
by like 2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
Fuck the cats. Oh,
cumulatively,
wait, Adrian's controlling them? Really fuck them
Oh
then.
yeah.
Yeah.
it's like, hey, maybe like push that cat rudely off the table. Oh wait, that cat is Adrian? No, pick it up by the scruff of its neck and throw it against the wall.
Well, a lot of my pieces did end up on the floor somehow. So yeah, you're right.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But otherwise, almost every game I've played with whatever mix of factions I've played, it stays close most of the way through the
Mhm.
game. Some factions are a little bit more swingy, like the birds can get a bunch, but then they're going to
They're
They're the
turmoil.
only ones that can actually lose points.
Yeah, and so
So,
they're
yeah,
gonna
they're-
roller
yeah.
coaster a little bit in points.
Yeah, it's basically the waves and tide.
Yeah.
It's like going in and it comes out, and it's just
Yep.
trying to minimize the loss and maximizing the gain on them.
The cats are the only one I think that really has a strong starting position, which fits the theme that
They're the
they
current rulers.
rule the
yeah,
forest.
yeah,
Everybody else, it's a little bit more of a slow
Mhm.
build,
yeah.
and you'll see it like in one of our games. We'd been playing for about an hour and 10, hour and 15, and nobody was much over 15 points. I was like, shit, this is gonna be a longer game of ours. And then the game ended like 3 turns later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it
Like 20 minutes
it could
later.
just ramp
Yeah.
right up, and it was
Yeah.
like, shit, that ended up being one of our quicker games.
Yeah.
So because
But it was still real close.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For most everyone.
most of our games have ended with
I had 15
At
points in that game.
at least 2 to 3 players are like, if he didn't win, I was going to win on my turn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And in that game, even I was at least like, if all 3 of you didn't win on your turns, I was going to do something cool on my turn.
I was
if
gonna
all 3
get
of you
above
stopped
20
playing,
points.
I was going to win.
Oh man.
Jeff, what do you think about playing Root?
I've mainly only played the Eerie, the Birds, and the Woodland Alliance critter people. I liked the Eerie a lot.
Did you feel so like as someone like Adrian played the cats twice, but you played the birds 3 times?
Twice.
Twice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we played without the birds for the first time
Yes.
in that third game.
Yeah. In your third game.
Yes, in my third game.
Yeah. Did you feel an evolution for the birds of that first game versus the second one? Did you have a better idea of what to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Because understanding what you need to do with each of those
Uh-huh.
cards every single turn,
Yes.
because it is a programming game, is
For,
vital
for the Eerie.
for the Eerie. Is vital, and that is
I just want to get it out there.
And that's a good thing to point out. Yeah.
It's hard to understand that going into the game, just sort of getting taught from you
Mhm.
people and not going out there and watching something else, that you're going to have to learn through mistakes.
What do you mean by you people?
You people that get all the rules wrong, and I don't read the rule book because everyone else is busy handing it over to each other constantly throughout the whole game, getting things wrong.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, just understanding like how the programming works in there and what you have to do every turn, and you can very, very easily just be like, I need to do this turn.
Yeah.
Well, I'm never going to be able to do that
Yeah.
in the next turn, so I'm definitely going to turmoil
Right.
and reset everything.
Yeah. What did you think of going from the birds to the woodland? Did it feel like a completely different game, or did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so.
Okay.
Because you're much less restricted on like your move and battle and stuff like that. You're sort of appearing wherever you want. But at this point, everyone had played like 6 times and knew exactly how to counter them, to where I was just sort of getting stomped down constantly and not really knowing what to do about it because it was the first time I had played them.
Right.
And I seemed to always be just kind of out of cards and out of this and out of that. And no one was moving into my areas because there was stuff everywhere. No one had to move into them, so they didn't have to give me cards, and they
Right.
could just battle and stomp me. And I wasn't getting enough of the colors to revolt and be able to build dudes. So, but through that, also getting all of my not suppression, but the supporters,
Yes.
not supporters,
Or no.
actual little
sympathy.
sympathy tokens out there. You get victory points for every one that you put out, but they only cost you like 1 for the
Mhm.
first 3 and then 2 for the next 3. But just not getting enough of those cards because I was in those situations was just sort of like, meh.
Yeah,
Yeah, all these factions you need to play multiple times
I agree with that.
to really get it. And like between like even the river folk, the first time someone played them and was not quite doing what they were supposed to be doing, and then you really knowing exactly how that was supposed to work.
But that might also be just play style of the
Yeah.
Personality.
As soon as I saw it's one where you're selling as mercenaries, it's like, oh, you need to sell the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Zach is really good at whoring himself out.
Oh,
so
it's yeah.
that's all he does.
Yeah.
Basically.
But yeah, it seems like every faction needs some learning curve.
There are
in there.
there are some that have a higher than
Oh,
than
yeah.
others. I think the cats and the birds have the lowest, just in
Definitely.
terms of trying to grasp what they're doing. Whereas like the Woodland Alliance, you definitely, like you're saying, you're just like, oh, I don't like I'm supposed to pop up, but until shit like until you were able to get started.
Until there's not a thing on every single space in here where someone can just be like, battle done, battle done.
Yeah.
But I mean, if people are attacking you as the Woodland Alliance to remove your popular support, they should be giving you cards.
Yeah.
So if you're getting out there and then they're destroying you, you're getting cards.
You can put out more the next turn.
Yeah.
It's just a slower start.
Yeah.
It is
Because-
definitely a slower start.
But sometimes you get them all wiped off and can't revolt anywhere, and so now you have to spend a whole second round just building.
But you get points for all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're cheap then. So if everybody wipes out your stuff, then they're one still. So
Mhm.
yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's well balanced.
I think it's interesting you said you felt it was two entirely different games with those two factions, because of the factions I've played, they definitely play different. But like Vast is one, we're going to probably compare this to Vast a lot in this review. Vast, it's entirely different games. Like you can't even say it's almost or it's sort of. You're playing different games depending on who you are.
If you are, if you were playing as the dragon, you're like, I sort of get what I'm doing, and then you go to the goblins, you're like, what am I'm supposed to have to do this thing now?
You're playing a different game. It's
entirely complete.
Five different people playing different games on the same board.
Yeah.
Whereas Root, I really did feel the connection between them. Like, they play different, but you're still trying to do the same things. You're trying to get control in slightly different ways. You're trying to get things out on the board in slightly different ways. You're trying to control.
It's not slightly different ways at all, though. It's very different ways that you're doing all these things.
I think he's just talking about there's a level of scale between Vast and Root.
Yeah, there's the action, move, and battle, but the birds are programming to be able to do that. The woodland creatures are trying to build up that support to be able to do that. That's not something that's that similar.
And maybe it was just because I haven't played either of those factions. Maybe it was just some factions are so drastically different, but I know like the two ones I played the most were lizards and cats, and they definitely play different. I mean, cats start fucking everywhere, and they're playing more of a like score a bunch of points as you are slowly driven back kind of thing. Whereas the Colt, you're able to flip people's pieces to yours, so it's more of like a
infection.
Kind of it starts much smaller and then sort of spreads, and then it's easier as the lizards to be like, I'm able to craft in all these different areas. Whereas the cats, like, it's a lot of effort to be like, I build a workshop, and then my next workshop is now more expensive. My next one's more expensive, and I've built 3 workshops, but do I put them all 3 in one area and hope to get some of the really big cards that rely on 3 of the same to craft? Or do I go 1 in each so that I can do a bunch of the low-level ones and then maybe get one of those mid-tier that's like needs 1 of each?
Or do you build them in separate spots so you can't have just one giant army come and destroy your entire crafting workshop?
Right.
What? Did someone say giant army?
Yeah.
Giant bread army, maybe?
Yes, giant bread army.
You're still getting nightmares about that game?
No.
But overall, like, I mean,
you didn't overthrow my keep. That's the only thing I care about.
Oh, I really wanted to do that.
There was so much that I felt played similar between them. They didn't feel like I was playing, certainly not different games.
Yeah. I think the biggest change in Vast to here, to me, is when I play Vast as the dragon, we're going to use dragon goblins again, because I think it's a good example, is when I'm playing the dragon and goblins are taking their turn, I'm like, I don't fucking know how you're doing all these things. I'm just trusting that you're doing them right.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit in that in Root, but it's a much lower degree, to me at least.
It's much easier to keep tabs on what different people are doing, assuming you're paying attention.
Well, it's for the Eerie, it's like, pretty quickly I'm like, okay, so you need to build in a fox clearing every turn.
Yeah.
Or something bad happens to you.
You have a
I don't know what happens to you, but it's bad.
Yeah. You have rapid expansion that is slowly whereas the other ones are like they have the biggest burst. Or some of them are like the wood. It takes a while for them to sort of creep in there and sort of get their hold. But once they got a hold, it's really hard for them to get out.
Right. Well, my point is like it's easier to see how to screw over other races and drag them down, in my opinion, than Vast.
No, yeah.
And also like the move battle. There may be different ways you do all those, but they're the same action. The cats get to move twice per thing, but whereas everyone else moves once. But it's all still you move from one clearing that you have rule of to another clearing that you have rule of. One of those must be true.
Pretty much, I would say the one that's just the biggest difference is the vagabond.
Yeah.
Because instead of an army, you are just a lone dude wandering around. You get complete freedom of movement, unlike everybody else.
Yeah.
And you're running around getting items. People can, craft items to try and, because when you do an aid as a vagabond, you give them cards. So you're like, I'm going to craft stuff to get points, but also so he'll hopefully give me cards.
Yeah.
And then, run around doing quests. His is the most unique in terms of because he's just one dude on the board. He doesn't affect everybody as much as others do, but he can. You have to watch out for him because he can ramp. I think ramps up the highest.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That once he gets the things he needs to get, he can do so many things.
Oh yeah, he could score easily 12, 14 points in his final turn
exactly.
out of 30.
Yeah, where it's like the cats have a giant.
Yeah, much slower grind.
Not only slower, it's just they are actually limited by the amount of actions they can do.
Yeah.
To an extent, whereas for them or the otters or not the river folk and stuff like that, they have ways to do more things, and so you have to look at each faction and try and figure out what its what its weaknesses are, like you're saying, and how to exploit that.
I feel like we kind of accidentally covered all the factions. Have we?
I think we really kind of have.
Yeah.
We didn't go through them as specifically as I intended to, but
yes,
go us.
Yeah.
Then you asked Jeff. Jeff, what do you think of it? And then it was factions.
Way
to keep us on track, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good job, Jeff. Is there
So one other thing I really wanted to cover, because we've had some games where Adrian has complained about the luck. I wanted to cover
the luck of the cards and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
How big of an impact do you think luck has in this game? Obviously, it's not an 18XX.
No. So there is luck in the game.
There's two
random
types.
a luck and random kind of factors thing that comes up
because we haven't even mentioned the dice yet.
Yeah, true.
We haven't. So the dice I think are actually shockingly the minor one in this game. Dice really only come up in combat, and because they're D12s that are 3 each of 0, 1, 2, and 3, it's not a wide range.
Well, and not just that too, but it's also the attacker
just picks the
highest. So if you're attacking, you're probably gonna get a higher roll than the defender.
It's immediately mitigated.
It tells you that it favors the attacker, so you know that. So it does help in that regard.
Yeah, so you're not as pissed when you're the attacker and you roll a 0 and then your opponent rolls a 3. Because it doesn't work that way. The attacker just rolls both and takes the higher.
It's not like Risk.
No,
for
exactly.
example.
You just know that if you're the defender and someone attacks you, you're like, I'm about to get fucked.
Yeah, probably.
Which I think did a good job balancing with the way pieces for most factions go back on their board and the way they ramp up in price. Like the fact they go back is like, yeah, you lost something, but now you're building something for cheaper.
Yeah.
And most of the factions score when they build.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some, like the lizards, have to build and then do a separate action to score, which sucks when people destroy your shit.
Yes.
But the dice, to go back to what we're actually talking about, though, I think those are the lower. Like, yes, there's some randomness there, but it's less. Like, it affects the overall success and failure of the game less.
Yeah, or you can just roll. I'm going to lose dudes every roll.
Yeah.
For the entire game.
You expect that, and then you get
pleasantly surprised when you don't lose anyone.
When you get a 3-0, you're like, hey, it worked out for me.
You lose one.
Yeah,
I'm happy with the battle mechanics.
No, I like
it. I think it's actually
especially because
for using a pair of dice, it's
a great way to do it. Especially because when you roll a die and you roll a 3, that basically matches whatever the amount of warriors you have. Like I was saying, so if you only have one guy, even if you roll a 3, you're only doing 1 damage. So it's not like where you can do a lot more damage than with a superior or with a versus a superior force. It's that you're only doing 1 guy at a time. Whereas you bring 3 guys in there, not only are you probably going to do more damage, you have a better chance of doing more damage.
Yeah. Which also it sort of has the opposite. If you have more than 3 dudes, you're not going to lose all your dudes in one turn.
Yes, and it's not like some things where like I'm going to battle here and we're fighting until one of us dies.
No,
it's just one round.
Risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's 1 round. And
takes you an action. However you have to generate that.
Because you can do more than 1 battle.
Exactly.
Etc.
To stick with what Paul was bringing up, though, for randomness, the bigger random thing is the single deck of draw cards that everybody has to draw from.
Yeah.
and everybody then has to use.
It has 4 suits in it.
Yeah, there's a bird suit, which is wild for everybody but lizards,
Mhm.
because they're a little bit weird. And then there's a fox, a mouse, and a what's the third one?
Bunny.
Bunny. And those
Which-
relate to specific regions on the board.
Each of the clearings there are 4 of each.
Yeah.
Of the 3, there are no bird clearings.
No,
Just
birds
this-
are wild.
Yes.
Like I said, for everybody but lizards. but
Well,
the
I just meant
lizards are
on the
a little
board
weird.
too.
Yeah.
They're not on the board.
Yeah.
So
And it's a deck of 54 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so there's like the one of the top banner that denotes like which one of those 4 suits we'll
Mhm.
call them it is. And then down towards the bottom, there's the craft action, which is like you need whatever you use to craft, whether it's gardens if you're the lizards, workshops if you're the cats, roosts,
Yep.
whatever. You need this many in whatever type of region
Yep.
listed. And that's where and I feel like that's where the randomness really starts to maybe hurt the game a little bit. It's one of my biggest complaints about the game is that you can, if you're very unlucky with card draws, just not really be able to do anything. Because maybe you draw you're really strong in bunnies and mice, but you draw a bunch of fox cards. And it's like, well, I guess I'm not crafting. I guess I'm not spending these cards. There's, for most factions, a lot of good ways to mitigate it.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
And it is a big deck, and there's a lot of options. So it does kind of, I think, even out as a deck of cards does, because there's a set proportion in the deck.
Right.
But when you're playing with 5 people, maybe somebody gets all the foxes and you need foxes, and like you can't help if the foxes just happen through the random shuffling of the deck are going to everybody else.
And to sort of piggyback off that, when you play on the winter map, the different clearings are randomized in terms of which one is bunny, fox, or mice.
Yes.
And when you were playing as the birds, the randomness of what cards you get plus the initial randomness of where it was set up. Like when I was playing, I had so many mouse cards, and all the mouse things were on the other side of the board that was really hard for me to get to.
Yeah.
And so because of both of those, it caused me to revolt, or it is revolt, right?
Yes.
Turmoil.
Turmoil,
That's what it is. Revolt's woodland. But it caused me to do that more often than I would have liked.
Yeah.
Because there was no way for me, and I was like, I have all these red things I need to do, but like I said, I couldn't draw any red. It was just fucking mice, and I'm like, this is
I think
bullshit, because you have to put at least one card.
I agree with you, and that was weird.
Yeah.
I think that can happen in different ways to every faction.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh no,
So,
100%. Yes.
Yeah, so I think it kind of evens itself out, and it goes down to how much you enjoy luck being in your
Yes.
board games.
Uh-huh.
I enjoy luckless board games. I like 18xx games.
I'm
looking forward.
no luck.
I'm looking forward to being on your first 18xx review.
Yes.
Zach just jumped out a window. Weird.
Zach's gone now. Jeff is maybe still here, but he's holding a gun to his head.
That'll be nice. It'll be our first review where there's only 2 people in here. So
It'll be a great show.
yeah.
Hey, I'm down. So, fuck, it's only one-on-one with Adrian, though.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, I enjoy luck in my board games. There was a game where I was the vagabond, and, with the quests, that's an additional layer of luck for the vagabond, and it can swing in both ways.
Yeah.
So I had 2 of my 3 quests, and there's no way to refresh quests.
Yeah.
2 of my 3 quests were unobtainable for me based on the items that had come out in the game so far, and, in fact, the entire game.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? So I didn't win that game.
Yeah.
I don't really mind that.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
just, but
I
it's
mean,
something that can
keeps
happen.
It keeps it interesting,
Yeah.
right, to me.
Yes,
But I can totally understand how people that don't like luck in their board games, unmitigatable luck,
Right.
would dislike that.
Even as like I was bitching about that earlier. Like I'm not like, man, fuck this game. No, it was just like, man, that sucked.
yeah.
So it is nice when that other side, it's easier to move around, but also it's more consistent in terms of where each of them are. So maybe on the winter side, it's just like you can't have 3 right next to each other, or something. Like you make up some.
I could totally house
exactly,
that a
yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
So 2 things. So I'm going to start because it was the most recent, and so it's super fresh on my mind. Paul's talking about the cards fucking him as the vagabond.
Mm-hmm.
When I played the lizards are really susceptible to this because the lizards, a good chunk of their abilities rely on the outcast, which is basically whatever of the 3 main of those factions: the mouse, the bunny, the fox, not the birds, because lizards hate birds.
Yeah.
But of those,
Obviously.
Because that would also really throw off trying to figure out.
right? Well, and it's also really
Yeah.
about what spaces are available on the board.
Exactly.
Whatever the most cards that were discarded of a certain type in the previous round becomes the new outcast, which determines where the mouse can take a lot of its, or where the lizards can take a lot of their actions. So not only are you limited by the luck of what you draw, you're limited by the very unmitigatable, uncontrollable luck of not only what other people draw, but what they actually play. So
Yeah, you are. I would say, yeah. Now the other people can there are times I know it's like how many of these
exactly.
you have.
So it lets the other people influence you in a way you cannot control.
That is true, but it's not. But I would say it's not. That's not random.
Well, but some of it is because if you as the birds get 5 fox cards,
Yeah.
you have no choice. If you're doing anything this turn, you're spending fox cards.
Yes.
So a little bit, it's the randomness that you guys all face from the card draw is then reflected even more into the randomness that the lizard faces of what's the outcast.
I don't know if I can really comment. That's the only race I haven't played. I've played 5 of the 6 so far. I'm
They're
kind of
so weird.
Yeah, I'm kind of
As a cult should be. They're so weird.
No, yeah.
I'm kind of afraid of playing them. They seem a little out there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I will probably my next playthrough. And I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't mind the luck. I don't think it overcomes skill, and it just makes it more interesting.
Yeah. If I had one major gameplay mechanic fault with this game, it is how much you can get fucked by card draws. I had it as the cats, and I've seen, and that's the thing. Like I complained about it a lot in one game, which is what made Paul kind of bring this up.
Did you win that game?
I did. It was a classic Adrian. I bitched for the first half of the game, and then I was like, "Wait, I actually might still win this," and then I did. Barely. It was definitely one of those situations where if I didn't win it that turn, Zach was going to win it. If I didn't and Zach didn't, Paul was going to. If Zach and Paul and I, neither one did, Jeff,
I believe
everyone was going to win
it
on
was,
the next turn.
I think it was 24, 25 29, 30.
It was a
yeah, something like
stupid
that.
close
Yeah.
game. And I was very shocked. And really, it happened, as I said, at the end of that game, I thought I was, because of my bad card draws, going to be in a situation where I got to like 29. I came up just short, and then all of you were going to win on the next turn. Because we were playing with the wrong rules of like who's starting player.
Yeah.
So I was vaguely keeping track of it. I was the cats. I was first player. So one turn is me, Zach, Paul, Jeff, and then back to me. And I thought I was going to get really close to the start of my turn, and all of you were going to win on that turn. Instead, I did win at the start of my turn. You guys, because the way the game plays, didn't get to take another turn. It was a good example. I remember having a very similar reaction in a Terraforming Mars game before I realized that mid-game isn't necessarily a good indicator of who's going to win.
Well, and it's also like you were saying that cats have a different, people have a different layer of progression in terms of how they do. So it's you shoot up early in the beginning, and then you have to sort of fight for those last couple ones.
Well, and so this was my second game playing the cats, where the first game I rocketed ahead and everybody shit on me, and I lost hard.
Yes.
And
as it should be.
And so this game, I wasn't rocketing ahead as cats. I felt more frustrated by cards. I was like, shit, I didn't lose the last game when I got way out to a good lead. I'm not getting out to a good lead. There's no way I'm going to win. Because I was misunderstanding that it's not, the cats don't always rush out to a good lead.
Yeah.
Sometimes the cats, and actually I think if you play the cats right, they don't. You're slow playing as you,
I agree.
As you fortify your position. You start with a bunch of positions, you reinforce them, and you just have to stand strong.
Yeah.
So you spend the first few turns of the game building up to withstand the later push.
So are you saying you don't let 7 bread people into your keep?
Do not do that.
Oh,
do not do that.
I mean,
Zach, you should probably take some notes.
Well, you know what? There really was not much I could do about that.
Last thing on this card and randomness stuff is to touch on what you were saying, Zach, about the winter map. To be fair, Leader Games in the rule book for the winter map says, and this is one of the few games where I actually legitimately agree with this statement, it is for experienced players only.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
And
sure,
they
I
specifically
agree.
say that the randomness of those things will drastically alter the strength of different factions.
I would 100% agree with that.
It will
I
make
also
some
agree.
factions very strong, some factions very weak, just depending on how those happen to come out.
It was a combination of not having the river folk, so the river was not available.
Yeah.
The being the birds, like so their cats weren't playing.
Yeah,
So
a lot comes into play.
And I'll touch on that in a little bit. But then also that the lizards, you were playing them and how their control works versus other people's control is an absolute. They have a garden, they own it no matter what.
Yes.
And so I could not physically move into the other space, even though I had a vastly superior force, because it was, the only weird thing
You
is
can't
that
wade through all the the acolytes
Well, not just-
gathered around the shrine.
100% that. It was very choke point heavy, but also you can't move into an empty clearing because you have to either rule the one you have or the one you're going into.
Which, I mean, I think
No, thematically, I
think it makes sense.
it makes sense, but it was frustrating to be like, it's fucking right there.
Yeah.
I just want to move, but because nobody's there, I can't. I'm like, but nobody's there to stop me.
If you ever interview Cole, I'd be
Yeah.
very interested to see how they determined to come up with that, because they could have easily said if it's empty, anybody can move into it.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see how that shook out in the playtesting.
Yeah.
And so the reason it was empty was because we were playing without cats.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
So we tried a couple, like the base ones. I know what you're saying, but the fact that I feel like cats add a bunch. They
Yes.
add
But I
presence
think at
to
that
the
point
entire.
in the game, that place was going to be cats would have been ran out of that place. 'Cause that was one that went like
Maybe.
back and
But-
forth a bunch.
No, that's you're. I mean, you're not completely wrong there, but it's also like the board was a lot emptier,
Yes. Now that I agree with. The board was way empty without cats.
and so it was interesting because I wanted to have us play. So the cats and the birds, like if you play 2-player, it says play those,
Yeah,
and
which
so
makes sense.
yes. So not having the two main forces factions, not having one or either of them, I was curious to see what it would play like, and I definitely felt not having the cats there, and I felt like the game worked better if you had cats there.
Yes. Which I think is a knock a little bit on the game. I feel like cats are necessary, but cats are also, I think, the most basic. Like the cats almost play themselves. Now I don't know,
I don't know about that.
I
That's
wouldn't-
too strong.
almost. They don't entirely, but they're also the only faction that has an automa because it can be played by an automa.
I mean, sure. I don't know if that's like a solid argument, but I mean, it's not like the cats. I mean, we've played a lot of games now. I've played 6 games. I think cats have won 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not overpowered.
no,
Certainly
yeah.
not.
Yeah. So that's not my point. My point is like I've seen them do I've seen them swing both ways, and I don't know. I feel like it always comes down to play style and skill.
But I mean, I think cats are. The thing I think is unfortunate is that you need cats in the game. Like
I mean,
Yeah.
I would agree with. I feel like,
I don't
don't
think
think
I'd
you
wanna
need
play
it,
without cats.
but
they
I-
make the game smoother.
There are a lot of setups that they recommend, and they do recommend certain player counts have them, but
Mhm.
not all player. Like pretty much 3 players.
3 or less, you would need cats,
Yeah.
and like
Out of
also
the, out of
3
the
3
10 examples they give, 3 don't have cats.
Yeah. and I'm assuming with 3 players, like only a couple of them have vagabond or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vagabond's
Can
only
I,
in.
can I see that, Jeff?
One of them is one cat and 2 vagabonds.
What the? How would that even work?
I don't know.
I actually think that, especially now that we know the thing about
Yeah.
like how you do turn order.
Well, it wouldn't matter.
It
in a
wouldn't matter
3-player
on there.
game.
It's gonna be a cat and then two vagabonds
Yeah.
and then a cat.
It would be real messed up.
Yeah,
I think that could be a fun one.
I would play it for sure.
I do. I mean, I definitely noticed that playing without playing without the
Yeah.
birds, playing without the cats,
Yeah.
made it feel very different.
Oh yeah.
I just feel it's like oh god, what was that game? 504, where it like I don't think anyone's actually played it, but
no one.
no one. It had a whole bunch of different mechanisms, but they were like these ones are clearly better
Yeah.
because it was all about building different games. Because you technically have 504 games in the one game.
Gotcha.
But it was like some people were like these ones are just clearly better, and I feel that having cats makes it a more interesting game.
I agree with you, but would you play again without cats?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would do it. I would. I don't.
I think it's telling that in that scenario,
Uh-huh.
across all player camps, they recommend 20 different setups. Of those 20 different setups, 4 of them do not include cats.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Like
It would.
Yeah.
It would.
I mean, it's
I
clearly-
would play without them, but it's not like I would want somebody to play cats. But if nobody wants to play cats, and it's like, all right, well, we'll just try something else.
Yeah.
This will be a weird game, a weird version of it.
Yeah.
How it feels.
or try the Automa.
Yes. Well, that's only
Can
if you
you-
want to do.
Can you play that without co-op?
I thought that
or-
was only co-op.
No, you can do mechanical marquee, cooperative, or solitaire. They do also
so it's
have it,
only solitaire or
they do list it also in competitive mode, and you can just swap in the mechanical marquee.
Okay, I would definitely.
Yeah.
I'd be curious about
Oh,
that.
I would play that
Yeah.
once. Yeah. I would,
yeah. That way, because then you could do a fun thing where like, oh, we got 4 players. Let's all 4 be a fun faction we want to
Yeah.
be, and then have the mechanical cat. So it's like a 5-player game.
The cats are fun
And
too.
the cats are fun. I've
Yes.
played the cats. The cats are the only faction I've played multiple times, and
Yeah.
I do enjoy the cats. It's it's you just know going in like,
Well,
people are gonna be gunning for me.
Yeah, that's the thing with the cat. Like when you play as the Woodland Alliance and stuff like that, you're like, I have to start from nothing and like sort of build up. Cats are like you start with everything and you just crunch down from there because, like you said, they take up the entire board and everyone's like, well, I need my space, so fuck you, cat.
So I've played 5 of the races. There's no race that I would not play again.
Yeah.
Which again,
Uh,
different
but
than
I'm-
Fast.
Yeah, but I'm guessing it's like you obviously have preferences, but
Do you have a favorite, Paul?
Oh man, I don't know.
I don't.
I don't
I-
think I do.
I mean, like for me, like I have so far, like I've played. I would rather play the Vagabond or the Riverfolk
the
over
River Folk were really fun.
over the birds and then the cats, but I would play all of them.
You know, it's tough only having one or 2 plays
Yes.
of each one because I think my favorite races that I've played are just overwhelmed by my favorite plays of the game.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
understand that too.
Like
Yeah, I can
marching
see that.
7 bread people into
Yeah.
your keep was just so sweet.
Yeah,
We've come to kill the overlords.
uh-huh. You didn't. You ran away. You
I
ended up running
know,
away.
like a bitch.
Yeah, because of the cat's ability of the hospital, you can pull. So every time I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna go fight other plays, and now I'm gonna bring those guys back to my keep. Hey,
Yeah.
Paul, now I have more people here than you.
Weird.
Yeah, and I have an ambush, so they'll help protect it, and I have other cards that you fight them. I'll spend those cards and just bring them right back.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
gonna,
yeah.
it's gonna
Well,
be
yeah.
a war of attrition if
And
you
that's
attack that.
that's the great thing about the cats is like,
Uh-huh.
oh, you're attacking me in my keep. Oh, you killed people in my keep. Well, those people are back in my keep.
Yeah. Whoa.
They got Bell.
Yeah.
I got better.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's a tough question. I feel like that's another indicator of what makes it such a good game.
Yeah.
None of the in your 6 games, Paul. What do you have? Do you have your rules saying who's won? What factions have won?
Oh, that's a good question.
Cats
So-
won twice.
Yep.
Vagabond won once. Woodland Alliance won once.
Yep.
The
Dave-
Riverfolk Company won.
Is it like 2-1-1-1-1?
I don't know what David won with.
Wasn't he the Cats?
Was he? If so, Cats have won 3 times.
Oh, then
So 3 out of
Um,
6. I mean,
well-
that's
well, no. It's
So I won 4 of my 6 games.
yeah. And
Awkward.
were you the Cats any of those times?
Yeah, my first one.
Okay.
I was the Cats. So I won with Cats, and then I won with Vagabond.
Uh-huh.
I won with Red People.
Yep.
That's the
Woodland
that's
Alliance.
The Woodland,
Woodland
Woodland
Alliance.
Alliance.
The Riverfolk. Oh no.
Oh no, I won with Woodland Alliance,
Yeah,
and I won with River
yes,
Folk.
yes, yeah.
And then Adrian won with Cats.
Yeah.
And David might have won with Cats. I think it was Cats. That's strange. I didn't write it down. Damn. I'll have to ask him. Anyway.
Yeah.
But like we said, in all the games, they've been so close.
Yes. And I think part of that was the fact that we were playing that Cats were always went first. So that might be
that's a good point.
I
Yeah.
am curious to see how that affects.
Yeah, definitely. We correct that for 2 games, I think, or 1 game.
I
might just been the
unfortunately
one
have
game.
never
Yeah,
played
just
a
the
game
one.
with
it was
that correct.
Yeah,
it was only the last one.
interesting. That might make a big difference.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right, let's wrap up gameplay and let's do final thoughts. Jeff,
Would you like to talk?
would you like to talk again? What are your final thoughts on Root?
anything to correct us on?
We didn't talk. So I was reading up on how the actual co-op and stuff worked while everyone was talking.
But we said we didn't play that.
Yeah, we haven't played it,
but we should at least talk about it. It's a thing that's in here.
it
Yeah.
exists. We don't
Yeah.
know anything about how it actually plays.
I have
Well-
literally read all the rules to it.
You read
Jeff-
the rules.
Jeff
you don't
knows.
actually know how it plays.
Yes, that's totally not the same thing at all.
It's very much not the same
All right,
thing.
Jeff, educate
All right,
us.
Jeff,
Yeah.
talk about co-op.
Basically, you're no longer competing. You're racing. Everyone's just hitting.
You're not competing in co-op, Jeff. Say it isn't
What?
so.
But you're not battling each other at all in this. You're not like going to actually fight each other in any
Yeah.
way, shape, or form because it is cooperative, which is very different from the base game.
No, 100%. You're all banding together to beat the.
Yeah. So
The
you're
mechanical.
the goal of the game is to get to everyone to get to 30 points before the marquee does.
Gotcha.
That's the main hook.
Oh shit! Like everyone's playing.
Everyone has to get to 30 points.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds vaguely interesting, but I mean, like, this is a war game. I don't look for a war game to be cooperative. Like,
It'd almost be like playing a different game.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't try to play the cooperative game because it doesn't interest me for this one.
Well, I would play it once.
I
would also like to
but
play it. I would also like to play it without Adrian, so I don't want to hear him bitch the whole time.
Oh, zing!
Fuck off, Jeff. Fuck off. Did you read
Uh,
about the solo? Do you want to talk about the solo too?
the
We didn't
solo?
talk about that either.
The solo is just playing one of the factions with the mechanical marquee. It's very similar to the cooperative. They add spy cards and stuff into the mechanical marquee.
Yeah.
It's basically just using the mechanical marquee. You can do co-op and solitaire, or throw it into competitive.
Can you play co-op at any player count?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can actually make a campaign out of it to where, very similar to Charterstone, they will get more powerful each game and will be able to carry over, or the marquee can carry over stuff that he's crafted and
Oh,
things.
interesting.
So it becomes more and more powerful and like levels up as you go through the co-op campaign.
Even for a game so well designed, clearly, I'm skeptical of something like that. You know, it always
Yeah.
just feels like a bolt-on.
Yeah.
But I'd try it.
Yeah, and everyone gets to keep something that's crafted over.
Gotcha.
So you start a little bit more powerful in each one.
Indeed. Let's move on to our final thoughts then. Jeff, let's start with you. What are your final thoughts on Root?
I really like Root. I like Root because every faction plays different enough to where it's always a new experience. I like playing it once and doing poorly each time, and then actually getting how the faction plays the next time, and I want to play them more and more. I'm looking forward to trying some of the factions that I never tried to see how they play differently. Because every game is different, because
Mhm.
there is so many options and stuff in there. It can always change based on who you're playing with. Components are great, game's great, cards are great, everything's great.
Succinct. I like
Yes.
it. Paul, what about you? What are your final thoughts?
I really love it. This might be my 10th 10 on BGG. I don't know, at least a 9, just because I try to rank on BGG based on the blurbs. I know Adrian, you do too.
Yes.
And 10 is I would never turn down a game of this, and I think that's accurate. At this point, I would never turn down a game of this. So I like the play style. I echo everything Jeff said. I don't need to say it again. I like the length of the game. You know, it does say 60 minutes to 90 minutes. It's probably more like 90 to 120, like we said before. But that's fine. I don't think there's been a game yet in my 6 where I've thought this is dragging. I'm generally paying attention to other people's turns
Mhm.
because they affect me, and no matter what faction I am. And yeah, just like Jeff said, I'm looking forward to playing the only new faction I haven't played yet, which is Colt, although I'm afraid of them.
Advanced. They seem pretty advanced.
Yeah, and both players I've seen play them, and in 2 of my 6 plays, I've gotten
Mhm.
15 points out of 30 at the end. So I don't
They're
know.
hard. They're hard.
I don't know what's happening, but other than that, I really want to master the rest of the races, and yeah, another big point is it's easy to teach. You can teach this game to maybe not a whole table of new people, but a couple new people, and it's only going to add 20 minutes to your game, and I feel like they're going to move pretty quickly throughout the game. So I think it's brilliant.
I think every one of our games also had a person learning a new faction at least once in each of those games.
Yeah, definitely a majority.
Mhm.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right on. For myself, I like Root. I'm not willing to quite go to a 9. I was just, even as you were talking there, Paul, looking back over them. 9 is excellent. Very much enjoy playing. I think for me, it's more at 8. Very good. Enjoy playing and would suggest. It's certainly not a 10 for me. Will always enjoy playing. There have even in my plays of it so far been moments I did not enjoy. I do think, especially early, depending on what faction you are, there can be downtime where other players' turns don't affect you as much. I could see this being a game where with the wrong players, we've been really fortunate. Our group tends towards AP a fair amount, and this game hasn't really brought that out too much in anybody.
I think that speaks towards the game.
100%.
Yeah.
I do see some potential, though, where there could be some, like, I mean, even in the Slack channel, somebody was asking about it, and they're like, I heard about a BGG post where somebody had a 4-hour game of this.
I just don't see that. That blows my mind.
I mean, it might
My
also be
initial reaction is they're playing something wrong.
they're playing,
Yeah,
they're
right.
playing wrong, or they're just not going for victory points as hard as they should be.
Maybe they all played Birdsong, and then they all played Daylight, and then they all played Evening.
Yeah, something weird. It seems like there almost had to be something wrong to end up with a 4-hour game of this.
Mhm.
But I do see where there could be some downtime that leads people, because yes, other people's turns almost always affect you, but not always. And especially if
And
they're
I-
hemming and hawing about what they're going to do.
And it would depend on the race or
Yeah.
on the faction as well.
That's a good point.
So there's some issues there. This is a game that falls into an interesting situation for me, much like I'm drawing a blank on what other game I was thinking of specifically earlier, but it's a game where something about Root, and I don't think this isn't a negative on Root, this is more of a me problem than a Root problem.
It's not you, it's me.
I care way too much, which means I start to get really upset when things aren't working out the way I want them to, and I feel like I can't fix it.
You don't say.
Which is a personal problem. It's one that I've
It's-
tried to work on a lot over the years of not getting upset when I play games.
It's why we call it the Adrian.
Paul, you have no idea. You haven't been in the group nearly long enough. You have not seen how much better I think I have gotten.
Oh God, it gets worse.
I used to be so much worse.
He doesn't slap the floor anymore.
I
So.
was just gonna bring that up.
One
Damn it.
fucking
Damn it.
one fucking floor slap. But it brings out just the most competitiveness.
Sure, yeah.
And especially when I see something work really well for another faction and it's just my faction is not working is so frustrating. At the end of every game though that I've played, I've enjoyed it. I've like looked back and been like, shit, I lost. Even the Lizards when I was 15 and it was like 15, 28, 29, 30. Like I was
To be fair, you probably should have been closer to 20 because you were. Remember that thing where you're like, it seems weird you have to get rid of a card and then another card?
yes.
You just get rid of that one card. You don't get rid of two cards. You reveal a card and then
Yeah, I never got rid of the second one.
no, you never use the second one. It's just the one you reveal you get rid of.
Yeah, you discard the same
It's
one.
in the FAQ. It's like the rules suggest this, but it's really this
Yeah.
for scoring.
you're
Because it
playing-
says
For
you
scoring.
reveal any
I
number of
know.
cards and then discard an unrevealed card.
That's not right.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, according to the FAQ, yeah.
Well, no shit. No wonder the lizard folk have been hampered.
yeah.
I think that's probably accurate. Yeah. Like we said earlier, you should read the FAQ before
Yeah.
you play the game.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's huge. That's an
That's
actual legitimate rules complaint. There,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
rules are a misstate how to play that.
Yeah. What if you read the FAQ?
Yeah, but I shouldn't have to read an FAQ.
Maybe you should read the FAQ.
Wow. Anyway, to sum it up, I do really like
Adrian
this game.
hates it now.
No,
Rules are terrible.
Yeah.
Let's go back and re-record everything.
everything.
He just deletes it.
Again.
It's like we lost it. We're doing it
Yeah,
again.
sorry guys.
Whoops, sorry. Paul, you're going to be here till 1 a.m.
Oh fuck.
I rated an 8. I think it's a very good game. I enjoy playing it. I could see the 8 is very good. Enjoy playing and would suggest.
Yeah.
And I could see being like, dude, guys, let's play some Root.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think you rating a game that has area control mechanic in 8 is more than I
An
would
area
ever
That
expect.
has dice
Area-
combat
area
and
control.
cards.
Yeah, fuck
Dice
man.
combat and a random card
Yeah.
mechanic that I have complained about being a little too random. I still think it's an 8.
That's basically
This
a
is-
12 Adrian rating.
It's a good game.
It is.
Root is a good game. I
Yeah.
like it a lot. I'm already considering buying this game. Zach, how about you bring us home? What are your final thoughts?
I love this game too. I really like. If I want to play an asymmetric game, I would play this over Vast 9 times out of 10. I think
I agree.
because, like you were saying,
Plays
It's-
a lot shorter.
not only does it play a lot shorter, but it is because it's less asymmetrical. The differences are highlighted more because you know of the similarities. I would probably rate this a 9, but I also don't follow the BGG thing because, as I've said many times, how good a game is and how often I'm willing to play it are two completely different things. And the only reason I wouldn't do any higher than that is because there are definitely factions I like playing more than others. If it was just the area control, if it was just the cats or birds or something similar to that, then or it's just people pushing against each other, I wouldn't like it as much. But because you have the vagabond playing all the sides, you have the Riverfolk company trying to get people to buy their things. The Woodland Alliance who pop up and it's like a you're just like, I gotta stomp that shit out, because once they're there forever. And then you have the lizards who are just popping up like a disease, and you're like, if I kill them, it just makes them stronger. This is bullshit. It definitely brings those emotions when I was playing as the cats, and I had the Riverfolk Company and the fucking the Woodland Alliance, but there were no birds. I was like, they're only attacking me. I can't do shit. They fucked up my infrastructure. They're invading my keep, and this is just. But I was enjoying it the entire time, and I do like that it's a very sort of what we were talking about on the last podcast. Like this, if you could make this a very serious game if you gave it any other theme.
Oh yeah.
Rulers, ravaging and exploiting resources. You have old, very old world kings trying to take back, and there's bureaucracy and blah blah blah. And then you have people basically human trafficking sort of stuff. But and
the cult could be real dark.
Exactly, but because it's this cute theme, you're just like,
yeah.
I don't want to say it makes it more palatable, but it makes it like
it's more accessible.
It's more accessible, but I find that
More
dichotomy.
appealing.
Yeah, and I find the dichotomy of just like, this is really fucked up, but because this is a cute theme, it people are like, oh, this looks like it, and you're like, yeah, but this is all
yeah.
I have to stomp out rebellions, otherwise they're gonna uprise over me.
Yeah, after my first playthrough, even I was like, "Why is this a war game? This isn't a war game." Yeah, it's a war game.
Yes.
I was wrong. Yeah, Paul was wrong.
Yeah.
But it's a cleverly disguised war game.
Yes.
And some people Adrian, you're saying people refer to it as an intro to war games. I think that's accurate, and I think it does that justice.
Yeah, obviously it's not like you wouldn't compare this to real war games in that respect, but it's like, this is sort of what it's like, especially like with coin games and stuff like that. You can you can see some similarities and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like the game.
Right on. That wraps up final thoughts. We don't have any listener feedback, no emails, no BGG. Zach even got the BGG up so early.
Yeah.
And no one even commented. But if you enjoyed the review and you're interested in picking this game up, it is currently available on Amazon for $56. It is on the way at Cool Stuff for $43. Miniature Market unavailable for $41.
That's a really good deal for that game.
Game Surplus in stock for $43. I couldn't find much on the Riverfolk expansion other than directly from Leader Games for $40.
It's sold out from them too.
It is sold out, but $40. You can buy the base game online in most other places for a little over $40.
The original pledge was the base game and the expansion for $60.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
God damn it! I can't believe.
I mean,
go back and punch.
Well, what's the
face.
MSRP for it? Because
60
and 40 would basically.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, MSRP is 100 for both.
The Kickstarter MSRP was 30 for the expansion, but that is clearly raised.
Yeah.
I mean,
it does add 3 factions and technically moves it from 4 players to 6 players.
The expansion's overpriced.
A little bit, yeah.
But
I mean, just
it adds a lot of stuff.
It does,
yeah.
So I paid 100. I'll say it.
Okay.
I paid 60 at Gen Con for the base game, and then I ordered the expansion from them that day.
Yeah.
Or the day after Jeff failed to get it from me.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so I spent $100 on this game. I have no regrets.
That seems like what everyone's going to be paying ish for this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can get the base game for 43.
43, and then probably once the expansion comes out, 30.
Yeah, probably.
And then so that's $70. I think that's
I was about to, if it hadn't been sold out, I would have already on this podcast as we were recording pulled the trigger on a $75 Kickstarter edition of both.
Yeah.
So if I can get them for 70, it might not have some of the Kickstarter bonuses.
I don't think there were any Kickstarter exclusives.
Really?
Mm-mm.
No, yeah, it's just what you got.
Yeah.
Which I also like.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is a good move by Leader Games.
The game definitely did change pretty significantly since the Kickstarter, art-wise and components-wise, but I like the final layout more than what was on the Kickstarter originally.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like the design, you mean?
Yeah, card design and stuff was pretty drastically different.
Oh yeah. Anyway.
Oh yeah. I would
Cool.
agree with that.
Well, if you want to get it, you know how. And yeah,
It'll be everywhere. It'll be
pretty 4-person unanimous. Root is a good fucking game. Maybe go try and get your hands on it / play it.
if
Mhm.
you haven't already.
Yeah. If you want to get a hold of us, you can always email us.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
There's a thread up over on our Board Game Geek Guild number 2731 about Root, where you can give your thoughts, questions, feedback about this episode. You can also always find us on Facebook and Instagram / Mile High Game Guys. And we are also pretty active over on Twitter. I tweet under at MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
I'm Jeff_MHGG.
And as we all learned on the Wednesday episode, Paul don't do that shit.
Nope.
He is on Slack, though.
He is on
which
Slack.
is
Oh yeah, come talk to me on Slack.
milehighgameguys.com. We have show notes with links to the Slack channel. So you can join and chat with us all, sometimes while recording. Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hopefully you have enjoyed this review of Root. Until next time, as always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
I'm Critter Jeff.
And thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Bye.
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 You are the tallest second choice.
Yes.
Because Andrew's the first choice?
Yes,
Oh,
for
God
tallest, yeah.
damn it. Fucking bullshit.
He's also the most ginger.
I can't argue with any of these things. You're correct. All right.
Make sure to say all the things you said last time.
Word for
exactly.
word.
For word.
Well, I
Pacing needs to be the same.
Yeah, because all of our responses are going to be exactly the same. So if you don't say it correct, you're going to fuck it up.
You have to follow the script.
Yes.
Well, so I think I'll say it better this time. So woohoo. So
No doubts there.
God damn, I hate you guys so much. Why am I here? Jeff, give me a
You're
ride
second
home.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even leave
Oh,
without one of
God.
us.
If only there was some ride-sharing service.
I'll turn mine on and always decline it so you never get a ride.
I don't go to Uber. I know your secrets. Anyway,
Oh, dear.
how are you going to timestamp that, Jeff? Good luck with that shit. Oh yeah, Jeff doesn't do anything except write it down.
We've
No.
descended into chaos.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you're welcome. Hey, she's basically Jinx.
Yeah, it's
so,
pretty
you
much
know.
Paul's dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like. Was it you, Zach? You went. I ain't not Jinx.
yeah.
That was me.
That was
That was
Jeff.
Jeff. Okay.
Hey, Jeff's still here.
He's only here for corrections.
What is he, Kaiser? What's going on here?
Well, it's because Jeff only knows how to read emails. He doesn't know how to send them. So
Oh.
Punchboard Media, where we all
Bring something
to the table
pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.